Hey, it's Ika here. I'm doing a trial series here that will ultimately end in me hopefully doing this a few months into Pokemon Sword and Shield as the meta kind of develops. And what it is a video representation of my tutoring process. I've been a tutor for Battling 101 for about, I think it's close to 7 or 8 months now. I've tutored 4 people so far, but I'd like to ultimately give people a resource, especially newer players that are coming in for the new generation, that they can use if they want to play Ultra Sun and Moon. And later on, when I get to grips with the Sword and Shield meta, Pokemon Sword and Shield, I'll do an equivalent series. So, anyways, this series is just for someone who's trying to pick up the meta, and just to give them a good idea of basically the basics, so that they can jump in. They know what's good. They know, they know a bit about how to play 3v3, and they know some basic cores and gameplay. So what I'll probably be focusing on, this is going to be a multi-part series, so I'm not actually going to have everything in this video, is I'm going to be focusing on firstly what's strong in the meta, how it's used. So we'll be talking about individual Pokemon and their various strengths and weaknesses. I'm not going to go into massive detail because a lot of these Pokemon are very complex, and run a large variety of sets, especially when you come to like the top ranked Pokemon. Then I'll be talking about different archetypes. So generally just cores, styles of play, which styles of play tend to be stronger in 3v3 compared to other 6v6. This actually is pretty similar across generations, but it doesn't always apply. For example, in Gen 5, Vari is generally more offensive than Gen 6 and Gen 7. Gen 6 is arguably a bit more balance oriented, whereas though they are both Gen 7 and Gen 6 are bulky offense. Gen 6's tends to be the games tend to be a bit longer because the teams are bulkier. So there are slight differences between gens, but generally bulky offense is good. But yeah, I'll be talking about different archetypes because you can play other stuff, hyper offense, of various kinds. You can even play stall or balance. I'll just go through some of those cores, and then I'll be talking about battling. There'll be two aspects of this. First will be team preview, how to pick your free, how to pick your lead in certain matchups, and then the general battling aspect and what you want to do in order to win a game of BSS. Hopefully this will be useful to people, and for this video I'm going to be focusing on essentially what is strong in the meta. I think to be able to understand your to understand Ultra and Ultra Moon BSS, you first need to know the Pokemon that you're dealing with. I've gotten the viability rankings done by some of the top players some of the top players in the community. I think the list is largely pretty accurate personally. That there are obviously some things that you can debate, but for the most part, you're like, these are the best 5 Pokemon in Battle Spot singles, and then you go down. These are probably not in any particular order, but they're good. But what I'm going to be mostly focused on here is between S rank and A minus. There are Pokemon here that I will touch on B plus and perhaps some of B, but mostly I'm going to be focused on this top file. What did they do? So most important Pokemon for Battle Spot singles, without a doubt, is Mimikyu. Give you an example of a Mimikyu set here. This is a standard-ish Mimikyu. This one is, as you can see from the spread, it's bulky. Generally, you'd run max attack, max speed, adamant is the standard, but you can also run a bulkier spread. The difference between the two spreads is the bulky spread lives certain hits, such as Waterfall from +1 Mega Gyarados. But generally, you're going to see 3 different sets in Battle Spot singles. The most common is Mimikyu Z. Mimikyu has a unique Z move that allows it to nuke much of the metagame. If I just use this, which is the uses list, if you look at the top 10 Pokemon, other than, you can argue, Charizard, but you don't want to be switching your Charizard in on the Z move. None of these Pokemon really want to switch in or resist a boosted Z move from both the Ghost and Fairy Stab. I mean, some of them, like Hippowdon, who I'll probably talk about in a sec, are bulky enough to take that move and recover up, or Aegislash and Metagross can take certain moves, but Mimikyu has its unique place in that its stab is extremely good, and it has an ability called Disguise. Battle Spot singles is a very 1v1 oriented metagame, so when you're looking at strong Pokemon in the metagame, generally their ability to 1v1 other Pokemon is valuable. So that's Mimikyu, and Mimikyu checks a lot of important sweepers in the tier. So it checks Mega Salamence, it checks Mega Gyarados, not as much. It checks Mega Blaziken, and it also can revenge kill a lot of stuff. So it can revenge kill most of the special sweepers. You can even revenge kill like stuff like Volcarona in certain circumstances. Just because it always gets off that free hit of Disguise. That's what makes Mimikyu the number 1 Pokemon in Battle Spot singles. Then you have Landorus Variant Form. Now Landorus is a different beast than Mimikyu. Landorus can run many sets, so I'll give you an example of a set that's common on Landorus. Is the Focus Sash set. So Focus Sash set, in BSS, you have specific Pokemon that's job is just to make sure, firstly, to get up your Stealth Rock, and then to make sure that your opponent can never have any momentum. So Landorus Therian Form and start with Focus Sash lead. That it's meant to do this. It's meant to set up rocks and then it booms out. You may not end up killing the opposing Pokemon, and it's got Rock Tomb to slow other Pokemon, but that allows you to get momentum. And in such a meta where you have only 3 Pokemon, some of the strongest sweepers are very difficult to stop. So unless, you know, that's why Mimikyu is so good, because it has that Disguise, so it won't be OHKO'd by most boosted moves. There are exceptions where there's Mold Breaker Pokemon, but I will be talking about that briefly. So Landorus, it has so much utility, which is what makes it strong. Also the typing, although it's quadruple weak to ice type, which is a big concern when there's other Pokemon that will also have that weakness. But yeah, it can Swords Dance and have Fly in him or Rock him Z, and then you have Scarf, Choice Scarf Landorus. Choice Scarf Landorus is able to revenge Pokemon like Volcarona and maybe some of these and Charizard is another big one, and it's able to go on sweeps in certain circumstances. So that's Landorus T. What another good thing about it is it can carry momentum with U-turn. It just has so many good possible options, and it's so adaptable. You could run Rocky Helmet, or Assault Vest is another one, yeah. So it can be both physically and specially bulky, and it has an important ability in Intimidate, which allows it to soak up hits that it wouldn't otherwise be able to soak up. For example, to give an example of something that's not brilliant in the meta that I'm not going to discuss, but Mega Swampert, Waterfall or Ice Punch in the rain, Landorus variant can generally take one hit because of Intimidate. It has great stats, great attack, some great stab. Rock and ground coverage generally all you need. So yeah, that's Landorus Therian. We have, I guess I'm gonna talk about Mega Salamence first, and then we'll go on to Greninja. Mega Salamence is probably the most deadly sweeper in Battle Spot singles, as you see the most common set here. Salamence Mega, DD Dragon Dance, Roost, Earthquake, and Double Edge. This set is very threatening because of Mega Salamance's really good power. Double Edge, when Salamence Mega evolves, is a really good stab. Actually, it's quite hard to find Pokemon that are resistant to flying that aren't also carried by Earthquake. So, for example, Aegislash here, which is 8th in usage, it won't die to an Earthquake, but you know, you can obviously you'd want to switch in on a flying move, but Aegislash doesn't like Earthquake, so it's just mostly with Salamence is the pure power of this Pokemon, and it also has an added bulk. It gets Intimidate just like Landorus before its Mega Evolution, which allows it to set up on certain Pokemon easier. So it could set up, for example, on a Mega Metagross that's Mega Evolved, or perhaps like a Ferrothorn, to give two examples of Pokemon that Mega Salamence can set up on. Another thing with Mega Salamence is that it can be very bulky. You don't have to run max speed, max attack on Salamence or any Pokemon. One of the trends more recently is that you run bulkier spreads, so like this, maybe like 2-1-2, 1, something like this could I'm trying to think. Something like this could be a Mega Salamence spread. I think like this, yeah. that's a well-known Mega Salmon spread there. You have to keep in mind certain speed tiers. I mean, this 84 isn't too important, but you want to outspeed Mimikyu, which hits 148 speed of adamant, and then this will allow you to live weaker ice type moves such as Hidden Power Ice from Tapu Koko, or Ice Beam from Porygon 2, and then you can start. This one would just have Return and Substitute, and you use your bulk to sub on people so you can set up easier, or just stall Pokemon out of moves. So Salamence can do a lot of things. Another set that it has that's strong is special or mixed Salamence. So it can run stuff like, because it has a decent special type, base 120, plus you get the area late boost on certain moves. So Hyper Voice actually does a lot of damage. And then you have Fire Blast. Fire Blast or Flamethrower allows it to its typical checks like Celesteela don't like, and not really Ferrothorn, but Celesteela doesn't like taking Fire Blast at all. Other stuff like Metagross doesn't like taking Fire Blast either. So that's something that you can also keep in mind. I'll be talking a bit about how to identify these threats and what their sets might be based off team composition. So then we have Greninja. Greninja is just a jack of all trades. As you can see here, look at all the moves that it can use: Ice Beam, Water Shuriken, Dark Pulse, Gunk Shot, Scald, Grass Knot, Sub. Hidden Power even runs Hydro Cannon, Surf, Rock Slide, Work Up, Low Kick. So it has two great abilities. There's Approaching and Torrent. It's what makes Greninja great is its unpredictability. Probably the best Greninja set is Sash. Sash allows it to live one hit, and it can be Protein or Torrent with this. Sash Torrent is very good as well, just for stopping momentum. And then on the other end you have Protein, which like Protein and Ice Beam does a ton to land KO's Landorus and Salamence, and you have stuff like Gunk Shot, which can KO Tapu Koko or Tapu Fini. There's another reason this can also be Scarf. There's a lot of things you can do with Greninja that will help it fit to your team. Waterium Z, generally you can see Protein Waterium Z, but generally you're going to see Torrent Waterium Z, and this will be with Hydro Cannon substitute, and you sub down to Torrent range. Greninja can be used to check a lot of Pokemon because of it, because it can get stabbed with Protein. So Greninja's like Rock Slide can check Charizard or Volcarona, and then Sash can check Blaziken with Torrent boosted Water Shuriken, whilst doing well against quite a lot of the metagame. So yeah, that's Greninja. I mean, there's so much you can talk about this because there's so many things you can do with Greninja, but I can't go through them all right now. I'm just giving you a basic overview of why these Pokemon are good. Tapu Fini is a bit different to these Pokemon. Tapu Fini can do a lot of things. I even forgot to talk about like Curse Mimikyu and Lead Mimikyu, but I'm only going through the basis. Tapu Fini, essentially it wars a lot of Pokemon on this list, so and it can take hits from everything. So there is not a Pokemon in the top 10 other than Mega Gengar is the only Pokemon that can OHKO a max HP Tapu Fini. So you have to keep. So its bulk and ability to survive one hit is strong. Generally, you're going to see three sets, which are the Wartaeum Z, which will be like a Calm Mind set. So Tapu Fini. So you see Calm Mind, Hydro Pump, Moonblast is always on Tapu Fini, and then you either see in the last slot you might see Taunt, you might see Hidden Power Fire. Hidden Power Fire is for Ferrothorn. Or something like this. And then you have like two general sets, the max HP kind of set, and then you have the max speeds, well, the nearly max speed set. This speed, something like maybe a Breloom. And then you can sometimes see moves like Reflect in here as well, so this could be Reflect, Calm Mind. The other option is, and generally you'll either have, with this sort of set, you'll either have a Bulky Berry or Wartaeum Z, and then with Bulky Berry you're more likely to see a defensive set. This just allows you to eat hits better versus like some Pokemon like Mega Salamence and eating hits from Landorus and Gyarados, who are big threats. So going on to A plus. I'll talk about the Megas first here. So we have Charizard. Charizard. What makes Charizard good is the fact that it has adaptability in what it can do. So if Charizard didn't have two Mega Evolutions, it only was its individual Mega Evolution, then it would still be good. It would still be up here, but it might not occupy as high as it does, because Charizard Y and Charizard X, because one is special and one is physical, they require different checks. So for example, Hippowdon can check Charizard X very well, however cannot check Charizard Y. On the other end, something like Heatran can check Charizard Y very well, but if it's Earthquake Charizard X, then you're going to be in trouble. The same with Garchomp can check Charizard Y very well, unless it's like, if it's Yachi Berry, it can check Charizard Y very well, but if you're eating a Dragon Claw from Charizard X, then you're going to get OHKO'd. So those are just examples of how versatile Charizard is. With both Charizard forms, generally you have two options where you can run max with setup. So with Charizard X, that would be Swords Dance or Dragon Dance. And then you either have, or Flame Charge is another one. Flame Charge is generally run with Swords Dance, and then you have it stab. So you have Flare Blitz, you have Dragon Claw or Outrage. So Outrage, and then you have Earthquake and Thunder Punch are your main options for coverage. Obviously, you're not going to put all of these in. So Earthquake hits Heatran. Thunder Punch would hit something like Tapu Fini, which otherwise might wall you. Tapu Fini is another example of something that can deal with Charizard X but can't deal with Charizard Y, generally. Not always, but generally. So Charizard Y, you're looking at just, it's always going to be 4 attacks, but you have flame. You can have flame charge, so it's a setup move, and then the fact is you get 3 choice specs on your fire move, so you can have like fire blast, hidden power ice, and like solar beam is another one. So this hits a lot of the meta game. And then you can have like certain techs like focus blast, ASA, depending on your team composition and what it needs. So yeah, that's Charizard. Hippowdon. Hippowdon is quite unlike all of these Pokemon in that it only has, it's less adaptable, but it's very good at the 2 things that it does. So Hippowdon, you're almost always going to see one of 2 sets. A bulky berry with EQ, Yawn, Stealth Rock, and Whirlwind. The whole point of this is you put up your Stealth Rock and then you phase Pokemon out using Yawn in order to get chip on them necessary. So you compare something like Hippowdon with a sweeping Mega. So Hippowdon plus Dragon Dance Elements, or Hippowdon plus Charizard are 2 examples of like strong cores that Hippowdon enables because it gets the necessary chip. It takes off sashes with its Sandstream ability, which will allow these Pokemon to put in work. So yeah, and the other major set is Rocky Helmet. Hippowdon has a great defense stat, so you can run something like a Impish Hippowdon, and then with this you generally run Ice. Not always, generally run Ice Fang for slack off for longevity. Then you can switch into stuff like Landorus and Mega Salamence and just phase them out of Yawn or Whirlwind, and then use these moves to pressure them to make sure they don't go behind subs and stuff. Aegislash. Aegislash is one of the premier especially defensive wars in the meta. It has a niche in that it checks a lot of certain mons that are very dangerous otherwise to most teams. So, and I haven't talked about the main one yet, which is Tapu Lele. Nothing likes to switch into Tapu Lele Psychic. Dual stab, so especially if it's specs. So Aegislash can switch in, and then it can hit stuff with a Shadow Ball. Very little in the tier resists Shadow Ball particularly well. I mean, Greninja resists it, but Greninja is not very good. Doesn't want to take those hits because it's so squishy. And when you look down this list, Mega Gyarados does, but you have to Mega Evolve first. And then Porygon 2 does, but Aegislash beats Porygon 2 anyways because it runs Toxic and it can stall out Porygon 2. Same with Snorlax and bulky normals. It's designed to beat these Pokemon because it doesn't care about what they do. But it can consistently switch into Tapu Lele over the course of the game, which is one of its strengths. And it can switch into other things like other bulky steals or Tapu Fini and hit Pokemon with strong Shadow Balls from base 150 stat. And generally you have 2 sets. You have the Ghost Z set. Aegislash will mostly be running Ghost Z with either Shadow Ball, Shadow Sneak, King Shield, and Toxic. This is a typical set. Or like a leftover set might have Substitute over. over Shadow Sneak because it can live certain. It can substitute on certain Pokemon just because of this natural pull. You can run something like this and this, or you might run lower speed, and this might be to outslow like a Porygon 2 or something. Or generally like something like Mega Marwar, for example. But yeah, Aegislash just very solid Pokemon. It has a unique ability, a unique thing in stance change as well. And King Shield is very good against certain Pokemon. It always means there's a mind game. So let's say you're up against something that can do a lot of damage to you, like Mega Lopunny, for example. Even though it has high jump kick and scrappy, it struggles with Aegislash because Aegislash can King Shield, and even if you predict that, if you're 4 attacks Lopunny, then you're going to lose because you'll get the -2 attack, and then Aegislash clicks Toxic for free. That's just an example. It also has another option of doing an SD set to sweep itself with other Z moves, so you can run Steelium Z. Mega Metagross, I kind of went in order. I said I was going to do Megas first, but I kind of just went in order. Mega Metagross is one of the strongest Pokemon off the bat. What makes Mega Metagross strong is that it has the bulk due to its fantastic stats, and it has a great steel typing which allows it to resist a lot of the fairies, and it just has great coverage, so Earthquake, Iron Head, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, Zen Headbutt, Rock Slides. Try and think of more things that it has going for it. Hammer Arm is another one that's big. It even has the option to run special moves, so it can run Grass Knot against something like Hippowdon or Hidden Power Fire versus Ferrothorn, but these are far more rare. Generally, you're running 4 attacks, and these sets can. What Metagross acts as is a breaker in the tier. So Metagross has it's not gonna generally sweep on its own, but it does a lot of damage to everything in the tier. So depending on what move, so it can threaten Mimikyu with Iron Head, this with Ice Punch, Greninja with any move really. Tapu Fini doesn't like to take Iron Head, this doesn't like to take Ice Punch. Charizard's one of the few Pokemon that can generally safely switch in, but it fears Rock Slide as well. And Hippowdon's another one. This is why Hippowdon is good. Part of why it's good. Aegislash doesn't like Earthquake. Celesteela doesn't like Thunder Punch. This doesn't. Metagross also kind of checks Tapu Lele as well. So yeah, Metagross just has a plethora of options, but more importantly, you can adapt Metagross to your team, so it's a very friendly mon to use in team building, and because you can patch a lot of the holes in your team by using your Mega Metagross coverage, so it's less like Salamence, which is the focal point. Mega Metagross can break itself, but also breaks for other Pokemon. I'm going to clear up some of these and then talk about the rest of A+. I might do A- and B+ in another video, and just do these focus on the best 30 or so Pokemon. Mega Gengar. Mega Gengar is just a fantastic Pokemon. The reason it's good mainly is because of its ability Shatter. Well, it has great attacking stats. Its speed is amongst the highest that you're going to see. Other than non-Scarfers, generally base 200 is very high. Only stuff like Mega Lopunny and Mega Alakazam and Pheromosa are the big ones that are going to be faster without a boost of some side. Gengar, due to its Shadow Tag, changes the dimension of the game, so you have to play differently around Mega Gengar, since a lot of your pieces that might be important for your victory can be trapped by Gengar, and therefore you lose the game. Gengar can obviously, with Shadow Tag, can trap most of these mons. It can't trap other ghost types, or it can't trap Trace Porygon too, but for the most part, a lot of these Pokemon don't like being trapped by certain Gengar sets. So Landorus T does. Gengar can run Icy Wind, and Icy Wind will OHKO non-bulky Landorus or Salamence, so both of these don't like it. Tapu Fini dies to Sludge Wave, so does Tapu Lele and Tapu Koko. So that's something to do, to think about. And it also has another set, which is the kind of infamous Casino Gar, which is Hypnosis, Hex, Sludge Bomb, or Sludge Wave. And I think Sludge Bomb is better than Wave in Casino Gar, and Substitute, where you can generally you're gonna have it's called Casino Gar because it's like a casino. You have a chance to win the game just by being fast and everything, and putting stuff to sleep. Yes, there is actually counterplay to this, through terrains and using Scarfers and stuff like that. But it's hard to deal with, which is why a lot of top teams have been using it this season as a kind of a fail-safe. But other than that, it learns a lot of strong support moves. So Will-O-Wisp Hex is an option. Also, obviously, it learns Shadow Ball. Focus Blast is one. Icy Wind is another good move that Gengar learns. Some of these moves, it has a lot of good moves that aren't even used. But yeah, those are the main ones. Destiny Bond is another one, and you can also run Disable, but that's less common. But yeah, Gengar's ability to trap stuff and pave the way for your team's win conditions is what makes it strong, and it can trap a lot of stuff here depending on the set. So something like Parishon can trap stuff as well. So you have to be careful when you play against Gengar. Although it's a lot frailer than some of these mons and harder to use. Celesteela, what makes Celesteela strong is that it has a very good natural bulk. What I mean by this is that it has great natural bulk and great natural typing. What I mean by this is it can take a lot of hits from the Pokemon above. So stuff like Tapu Fini, Landorus, Hippowdon can't really touch it. It can take moves from Aegis Slash and Mega Metagross, and then hit back with its Steel, Fire, and sometimes Ice coverage. Heavy Slam will do, because Celesteela is so heavy, it will do a lot to anything, and anything. It's hard to get momentum on Celesteela because it can click Leech Seed on the matchups where it thinks you're gonna switch. So if you have a Heatran, say you've got a your Landrus out against the Celesteela, and you click U-turn to go into your Heatran or your Volcarona, then Celesteela can click Leech Seed and gain recovery, a lot of recovery passively. With Celesteela, generally going to run defensive or specially defensive. Sometimes you can run a setup set, but those are only on specific teams, so like an auto-optimize air slash set. But yeah, something like heavy slam, sub protect, leech is an example of a Celesteela set. Or you can run flamethrower. Flamethrower does well against Ferrothorn and other steel types. This set only kind of sucks versus Heatran. Then hidden power ice. Power ice is the other big move on Celesteela sets. And then you can run leftovers or bulky berry, depending on what you want to check. Tapu Lele. What makes Tapu Lele strong is that its power. It has psychic terrain. Psychic terrain is it's underrated in terms of usage in Battle Spot Singers. Tapu Lele can be very strong with like a Choice Scarf. The reason you run Choice Scarf Tapu Lele is faster than most things and hits really hard with Psychic coming off a base 130 special attack, and then having Psychic terrain on top of that, which essentially gives you a choice specs. The reason why you have a lot of steals in the top 10 to top 20, so you have these 4 major steals, and you have Heatran, which is also a big one, is because of Tapu Lele existing. There are other reasons, but the main one is Tapu Lele, because nothing wants to take a Psychic or a Moonblast here other than a Steel type from this behemoth, and it's faster than everything of its Scarf, and Psychic terrain will block priority, so you couldn't go, let's say, to Mimikyu afterwards and click Shadow Sneak because of Psychic terrain, which makes it hard to revenge kill. Also, Tapu Lele kind of sits in just enough bulk to take certain hits, and it has a surprising amount of special defense. So Tapu Lele, for example, can beat Tapu Fini or 1v1. Another set that it can run is the Fightinium Z set, which is and the Psychium Z. These two sets are meant to break through walls by using Calm Mind. They can also run Taunt and stuff like this. Focus Sash is another option for, essentially, it serves as a Pokemon that can always get a hit off because you can't use priority against it. Then Gyarados. We'll talk mainly about Mega Gyarados. I'm not going to talk. There is a Flynium Z regular Gyarados as well. It's Rocky Helmet. These ones are far less used. Mega Gyarados is one of the best sweepers in BSS, especially used on hyper-offensive teams. What makes Gyarados great is its Mold Breaker ability. This allows it to bypass stuff like Mimikyu's Disguise is the big one. So when you're set up, well, they can't just go out into their into Mimikyu and revenge kill you, because you have that Mold Breaker, and then aside from that, it has good stab. Well, not good stab. It has water is great, and then ice. It has ice coverage with Ice Fang, and then great attack stat. The bulk is really sets it over the edge. So you have the 95 109, 113. It's similar to Mega Salamence. It gets Intimidate as well, so it could set up a lot of Pokemon. You can see Gyarados run a more hard setup teams where it gets a lot more support from stuff like even dual screens, which makes it impossible to kill. Blaziken. There are two things that there's one thing that makes Blaziken really good, and it's its ability speed boost. Speed boost allows it to essentially be faster than every single Pokemon in the game after a few things, and it can guarantee that by clicking protect. Also has great stats. It can run special or physical. They tend to run physical, and then you have strong stab, you have flare blitz, and then most things that can deal with flare blitz. Okay, let's say a rock type Pokemon. There isn't really one, but stuff. Okay, Heatran is something that can deal with flare blitz, but it can't deal with high jump kick very well. And stuff that can deal with high jump kick, like Mimikyu or Aegislash, hate flare blitz, or Celesteela even hate flare blitz. And another one is Porygon 2. It can break through a lot of teams with this, and it also has the with like a Swords Dance set, and it also has the option of using Baton Pass, so you pass your speed into another sweeper, so you can pass it into Celesteela, and then with Leech Seed always being faster, you can sub Leech Seed store stuff until you get into air/ range and you get a beast boost and it keeps on going stupid. So yeah, that's Blaziken. Blaziken's fallen out a bit of favour because of stuff like Tapu Fini and Hippowdon existing and being everywhere, and Landorus obviously was always there and Mimikyu was always there, so it's a little bit harder to use Blaziken now. And this goes the same with Tapu Koko, which I'll talk about in a second, but it's still very strong. Tapu Koko, it's one of the two best electric types. What it has going for it is its very fast speed. It's fast. It's an electric type that outspeeds Greninja, and it has a lot of, has a strong Thunderbolt. Electric Terrain can be very useful versus certain Pokemon, so you can stop Breloom from putting stuff to sleep, and just U-turn, Volt Switch or U-turn out, versus Breloom. Hidden Power Ice is generally what you see aside from the electric move, because it hits Landorus, which will be like most people's ground type if Hippowdon didn't exist. So obviously you see the fourth move is Grass Knot. This is for Hippowdon, and there's many moves. There's Electrum Z, Specs. You can even run Light Clay, which will be like Calm Mind, Reflect, something like maybe Nature's Madness or Taunt and U-turn. Coco's kind of fallen a bit out of favour recently, I think, even though it's good against Tapu Fini, Celesteela, there's certain things that can kind of set up on it, or it doesn't hit hard enough in certain cases. So there is that to be concerned about when using Tapu Koko, though it's still A+ on this list. Porygon 2 is the next Pokemon. I'm only going to go to 20. I might go to 25 actually. 25 seems a decent cut-off point. And then the rest of these Pokemon are pretty, like aren't as good. So Porygon 2 is kind of like the premier wall in the tier, or one of them. What makes it really good is Inviolite. Inviolite boosts its defenses to stupid levels. It can take +1 hits from Mega Salamence and restore +1 double edges from Mega Salamence just because of its natural bulk. Bolt Beam coverage is really good in general, just any Pokemon game, and Porygon 2 has Foul Play, which can set up Pokemon. Also, kind of can hit Aegislash in certain cases. Also, very good for spreading status. So you can run something like Discharge or Toxic, and Porygon will kind of just sits there and walls stuff. A lot of these Pokemon that are not able to break through Porygon. Like Salamence is not really able to break through Porygon because Porygon can always switch into Salamence, or it can always switch into Landorus. Especially if it's Trace, it can always switch into these, fire off an Ice Beam and force it out. So it's a great check in that way. Just a very solid wall, especially defensive. It can check stuff like Charizard Y and Naganadel and Pokemon like that. Porygon 2 can also run Trick Room, which is another one. Trick Room will generally be with 3 attacks and with download. A lot of if you see teams like, let me look at an example of a serious team. This team, I bet this team has, yeah. That's not a great example. I was trying to find a specific, one where the EVs have been specifically done. But no, we'll have to go with this. So this Naganadel set, for example, if you see the special defense, it's above the defense. That's specifically for download Porygon 2. So a lot of people look at this Pokemon and think, how can I beat this Pokemon? How do I start, So it's very important, even though it's only 16th, it's very important when people think about the meta. A lot of reasons Pokemon like Aegislash are so strong, and even you see stuff like Z-Low Kick Greninja. It's because a lot of these Pokemon struggle, and Carmine, Taunt, Tapu Fini, because a lot of these Pokemon struggle to deal with Porygon 2 otherwise. Thundurus T is probably the best special setup sweeper in the tier. I mean, Tapu Fini is generally like, can set up on a lot of things, but in terms of pure threats, Thundurus is probably the most one. It's a very good balance breaker. Hidden Power Ice, Thunderbolt, Nasty Plot, plus Focus Blast, or sometimes Volt Switch. Volt Switch is less common. That's more on non-Nasty Plot sets. So with Nasty Plot, you're probably running one of these 2 moves. But this set can break through a lot of Pokemon on this team, and then it has a decent speed stat where it just outspeeds base 100s. So you have to be very careful if you're running slow teams against a Thundurus variant form, which is where it really comes into its own. That's why it's good, and it also has a good ability. Volt Absorb allows it to check and set up on, certain Pokemon. So like, if you have like a Tapu Koko, which is specs, which sometimes they are, or it's locked into T-Bolts or Volts, which you can switch into Porygon 2's Discharge maybe, and then set up on an Ice Beam. So there's a lot. Its ability is surprisingly good as well, and you can run with all these special sweepers. You're going to see both max, and you're going to see faster stats that are designed to live hits. They have Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn is just a generally great Pokemon that it's a wall to a lot of things. So and it spreads damage using Leech Seed. Ferrothorn's a good switch into stuff like Tapu Koko. It can sit there versus it's good check to Mimikyu, and it will beat most Landresses, and it's a good check to Tapu Fini unless it's running Hidden Power Fire. Hidden Power Fire won't even KO Ferrothorn. So that's to keep in mind. It has some downsides, which is why it's down here. For example, Charizard and Volcarona, which I'll get to, are two big Pokemon that really hamper Ferrothorn's usage, and Heatran's another one to a lesser extent. I guess Blaziken. So these offensive setup fire types. The reason that Ferrothorn's so low, if these fire types didn't exist, Ferrothorn would be up here somewhere. 19th you have Breloom. What makes Breloom so great is this one move called Spore. Breloom, there are other Pokemon that learn Spore. For example, Amoonguss learns Spore, but what separates Breloom from Amoonguss is its ability to take advantage of its own Spore by setting up. It can also speed control with Rock Tomb. Breloom right here, we're starting to go into the A tier of Pokemon. There's Pokemon here that are A+, and Pokemon that are A, depending on the individual opinion. But yeah, you have with Swords Dance and Mach Punch with Technician, you're generally nearly always going to see Focus Sash when you see Breloom in team preview. There are exceptions where you can see much easier teams with like Toxicorp, but generally you're going to see that, and multi-hit moves are surprisingly good. So Breloom can KO something like Mimikyu through disguise because of Bullet Seed. Assuming it's got a sash still. Then we have Naganadel. You see a lot more stuff with Naganadel than you used to. It used to only be Dragonium Z. Mostly it's still Dragonium Z. It has one set, essentially, which you have to really be careful of when you see Naganadel. The rest of the sets are just capitalizing on people being worried about this set, which is Draco Meteor, Sludge Wave, Fire Move of some type, and Nasty Claw. What makes Naganadel so strong, and this goes with all the Ultra Beasts to an extent. Celesteela, another reason it's strong is because of Beast Boost. And this applies to Naganadel. Naganadel will get a speed boost after it KOs a Pokemon, and Nasty Plot plus Dragonium Z OHKOs a lot of stuff, and then Fairy type, you might think, okay, I'm gonna switch Fairy type into that, but Naganadel beats most Fairy types and KOs them with Sludge Wave. So then you have a +2 Naganadel that is also faster than everything in the meta game other than a Scarf Greninja. So, and most Greninjas won't be faster than Naganadel. They'll be modest Scarf. though you can run Timmy Scarf. Timmy Scarf's fine. So Garchomp. But yeah, this is what makes this Pokemon so scary. It's just it can set up on not everything it can set up, but it can set up stuff like Fairthorn, Porygon, Tapu Fini. Things get scared out by Naganadel as well, and it doesn't necessarily need its boost to win the game. If you have some chip on steel types, they'll generally die to a fire move unless they're called Heatran. Heatran is one of the reasons Naganadel is down here rather than up here. Garchomp. Garchomp. There's two things that Garchomp does. It has the ground typing, which blocks Volt Switch. And the second thing is it's a decent check to Charizard. It's also relatively fast, so it can get up stuff like Stealth Rock, and it's a pretty decent lead. It's not quite up here. The reason why is that it doesn't quite have as much use as Landorus. It's not as good as Landorus all around. So Landorus will also brings ground immunity. It brings Intimidate. It brings other moves like Knock Off and Explosion on the lead slot that Garchomp doesn't. But Garchomp does have some other stuff going for it, so it can check Charizard better, or it can Z move a lot with like Dragonium Z and Swords Dance. It's faster than Landorus, so it can Swords Dance over certain Pokemon better. There we have Heatran. Heatran, generally you're going to see it in one of a few roles, especially defensive, which all of these are essentially specially defensive, and then you'll see the choiced and offensive ones. These Gracium Z is just a bait set designed to bait in stuff like Tapu Fini. Air Balloon. This means that basically what holds Heatran back is that it's 4 times weakness to Earthquake. This learns Earthquake. Obviously, Salamence will have Earthquake. Charizard X can have Earthquake, but obviously Heatran is going to war Charizard X with Earthquake because of the balloon. Hippo has Earthquake. Celesteela can have Earthquake. Metagross has Earthquake. So Blaziken can have Earthquake. So you have to be worried about that a lot. And fighting type, although it's less common, is also there. So it's typing whilst it is its strength due to its Flash Fire ability. Flash Fire allows it to live to eat up hits from Charizard, especially Volcarona and Naganadel are the 2 big Pokemon that Heatran checks. And this is why you see Stealth Rock plus Roar. And then Earth Power, this hurts a lot of the tier, and then Flash Cannon, this can be for Mimic. It can also check Mimikyu quite well due to the typing, dual resisting, Play Rough. So yeah, you have a lot of options. Will-O-Wisp is another option here that's less used, or Toxic is more common. It's just only slightly though. But yeah, you can phase stuff out with Heatran as well. So boosted Volcarona, boosted Naganadel. It can live any hit from them if it's specially defensive and phase them out. And Volcarona hates Stealth Rock, and Naganadel, it can only get setups at certain points. After that, on the bulkier sort of teams like Naganadel, after a Stealth Rock's switching is good to die to it. Ice Beam from Porygon 2, for example. Snorlax, originally it wasn't very good. well, wasn't considered that good. It was hovering around the 50 to 60 range. At about season 7 or 8, season 10, 11, it started picking up, and the reason why is because of the strength of having a normal type wall. Porygon 2's uses have actually dropped, not because it's not excellent, but because Snorlax is taking some of that niche away. It can switch into, it has a lot of natural special bulk, which allows it to take on Pokemon like Tapu Fini. Greninja is a big one. It can check a lot of the unpredictability of Greninja, because you can go into Snorlax, and generally most of the time there are Greninja techs that beat Snorlax, but most of the time you can take Snorlax hits. It's immune to Ghost type, so Z Shadow Claw for Mimikyu, if you get the turn wrong, you don't want to be putting it into a Snorlax or a Porygon. It also has its own. It has its own like 2 major sets. It has the phasing sets, which are like the Yawn sets, where you can lead Snorlax and Yawn. Yawn spam has the bulky berry and longevity and recycle. And then it has the other sets, which is the curse sets. The curse. After a curse, Snorlax has such natural special bulk that it can get multiple curses off, and then you have, you can sweep through a lot of these Pokemon with just Return or Double Edge and Earthquake. Though that, and you say, okay, Celesteela's immune to this and it can Leech Seed, but at +6, which Snorlax can get +6 on Celesteela, it will just beat this Pokemon unless it has Sub and Protect. Tapu Lele, Snorlax as well as Porygon 2 can also switch into Tapu Lele Psychics multiple times and recover off with the bulky berry. Tyranitar, it's a Tyranitar and Mega Tyranitar. There are some differences, but I'll go through basically. With Tyranitar, it just has decent bulk. Sandstream is a good ability. It breaks sashes and stuff, and you have Stone Edge, Earthquake. Edgequake is very strong. You see it on Landorus, you see it on Hippo. Its weakness to Earthquake kind of holds it, and 4 times weakness to fighting holds it back. But it can be very good in certain matchups. So certain Pokemon really don't like Tyranitar. Like Charizard Y, without Focus Blast, it's not going to really like Tyranitar. And then it could switch in due to its natural bulk on a lot of Pokemon. Volcarona is another one. Every team has to be worried about Volcarona. But Tyranitar can switch in and do its thing. Now, it does have a few weaknesses. It's weak to Fairy type in particular. Mimikyu is a big threat to Tyranitar, but you can break a potential sash or something. And then obviously it has setup and great bulk that it can use to take advantage of that, and great attack. So I won't talk about Tyranitar. I don't think it's quite up there with these ones. Where is Tyranitar on here? Yeah, they put it at A-, which is where I'd put it. So it's, even though its usage is high, it's not quite as strong as some of these Pokemon. Volcarona, Quiver Dance is what makes Volcarona such a threat. Quiver Dance, obviously, um, with giving the speed boost as well as the special attack and the special defense boost. People underestimate the importance of the special defense boost, which is allows it to set up multiple times due to the secondary special defense boost. And then yeah, fire, grass, ice, bug, psychic. It can do every single sort of coverage. Hidden power. This could be hidden power ground. Heatran's one of the things that consistently walls most Volcarona sets. So hidden power ground. You have to choose between hitting Heatran and hitting Salamence. So that's something to keep in mind. But its Stealth Rock weakness lets it down, or as reason it's not higher. It balances it, and it's not quite as versatile and quite as overtly threatening as Charizard. Because Charizard just has so many more sets, and has a ground immunity. But Volcarona can be very threatening to a lot of the tier. Just after one Quiver Dance, and it can Quiver Dance on a lot. These sets generally you're seeing Bulky Berry. These sets are fat enough to live hits from weaker Pokemon. Or weak super effective moves, maybe like a defensive Landorus T Rock Tomb or a Flare Blitz from Mega Blaziken. These can live them and KO or click Quiver Dance. Then you have the Z moves. Z moves really push Volcarona over the edge and make it one of the biggest threats in the meta game. Any team needs to be able to deal with Volcarona in the same way it needs to be able to deal with Naganadel and Thundurus T. These are the main three non-mega Tapu Lele is another one. These are the main four special sweepers that you have to really deal with that are not mega, because the two mega ones also exist. So I think I'll end it there, and maybe I'll go through the other Pokemon in a later video. I just wanted to give a basic overview of some of the strongest Pokemon and why they are strong, so that you guys get a good idea of why these Pokemon are up here rather than down here somewhere. Because everything that's below this, for the most part, it's below this because it's either A, less threatening, B, less consistent, C, they need more team support, i.e. they can't do things, or they can't do things in certain matchups. So Rotom Heat is an example of something that is adaptable but less overtly powerful than these ones. Say with Lopunny, something that's fast but less powerful, so it can be walled by certain things. An example of something that's just as threatening but less more matchup dependent, Glalie and Komuro. These two Pokemon are more based on matchup and less consistent. Glalie's a lot less consistent a way to win than, let's say, another setup sweeper like Salamence. And then there's other Pokemon that kind of fit into niche styles, so Chansey and Skarmory, obviously two main Stormons, and you have Swampert, which is the main Rainmon.
We can play it on my Nintendo Entertainment System.
So these Pokemon don't, you know, are not going to be seen on most styles. They'll be seen on their specific style that makes them strong. And then you have stuff that's very niche, like Circuitry is very niche because it has a role as a balance breaker, but it's not used. It's only used on certain teams because there's a Pokemon Thunderous Fairy in form that does a lot of what Circuitry does, but better in a lot of aspects. And you can go down, and there's stuff that's not consistent or hard to pull off, and that's what separates this stuff down here with the stuff that I was talking about. Anyways, next time I think I'm going to go through some of the major cores, tie up the individual Pokemon that I talked about here. I'm mostly only going to be talking about top 30. Maybe I'll go into Kangaskhan and Lopunny and Rotom Heat, but no further than this, and talk about some of the most popular BSS cores and how they function and what makes them so strong. Alright, peace guys.